Hey there, welcome back everybody. Thank you for hanging in there. You have made it to stage 5 of Crazy Good Grief. So we are going through the 5 stages of traditional grief, and we are putting my little spin on them and turning them into the 5 stages of good grief. So today we are talking about acceptance. So if you look at the traditional 5 stages of grief, you would find that the end one is acceptance. And as you know, that this whole 5-part series that I'm doing is based off of the 5-minute Ignite Denver talk that I gave, and where I traded out the 5 stages of traditional grief for the 5 stages of good grief. And one of the problems I brought up with acceptance is that another word for acceptance is resignation. So I sort of was a little bit of a grief basher, and I said, hey, who wants to live a life of resignation? Ooh, that sounds awful. And it does when you look at it that way, right? So when you look at it as acceptance is just another way of saying I resign myself to this situation. It does sound a little bit dismal, and it certainly does not have anything positive about it that really makes me want to jump on the bandwagon. And one of the things that I found out in my process was I really wasn't willing to live a life of resignation. That I so love my son, and I love his purpose. I love the bright, shining light that he brought into the world for over 21 years, that I wasn't willing just to resign myself to this life of being unhappy and living with this big gloomy cloud over me all the time and being resigned to being a bereaved parent. And it is hard. I'm not in any way, shape, or form suggesting it's not hard, but for me, I couldn't do that. And when things really came to fruition for me in terms of, I think we all have this moment in our grief recovery where things start to click, where we have this moment where it's like, it's a fork in the road, and we have to decide that do we want to live a life of acceptance and of resignation, or is there something else? Is there something else we can do? Is there some other way that we can live with our grief that actually honors the person that we've lost? And so for me, it was a letter that I got in the mail from another bereaved mother. And she made this, at the time, sounded crazy to me. She made this suggestion that maybe what I could do is take all those broken pieces that made up my broken heart and put them back together with expansion joints. And you guys hear me talk about this a lot, that we can rebuild our lives with expansion joints. We have a choice. And if you look at Japanese pottery, they have this thing that they do where when a piece of pottery becomes cracked, they fill it in with gold, and they fill it or some other precious mineral, and that it really isn't completely broken, and that we're just filling in those spots and those places that were broken. And so I chose not to accept acceptance or resignation, but I chose to accept expansion and rebuilding my life with expansion joints, and knowing that those broken pieces, the way my heart was before Brandon died, is never going to be that way again, but that I have control over rebuilding a life that is really incredible and honors my son, and that everything I do and the actions that I take can be his reflection to the world. That, you know, even you listening to this, you will never meet Brandon. You will never know what an incredible young man he was. But what you know is how I am shining his light out into the world. And so that's what I want. It's important to me that Brandon's memory is continued on and that people don't forget him. And I bet you feel exactly the same way, don't you? That you have this person that you love that is so important to you and was such a big part of your heart, and you don't want the world to forget them. Do you? I don't either. I can't stand the thought of people forgetting Brandon. It drives me crazy. So, don't live a life of acceptance. Don't live a life of resignation. Live a life that blows the doors off of traditional grief. Live a life that when people meet you and they see you, they will remember your loved one by how engaged you are in life and how incredible you are, and how empowered you are to live the kind of life that not just honors the person that you love. So let's go beyond this idea that this is how they would want me to live. This is what would make them happy. I know what would make Brandon happy, and I have all those answers. But I want other people to look at me and say, wow, Brandon was an incredible, amazing kid. Look what she's doing. He must have really been something special. So I want that for you too. That's what I want you to do. I want you to take that piece of grief and that last stage that we're working on, and I want you to turn acceptance into expansion. Rebuild that broken heart, my friend. Go for it. Go crazy. Knock it out of the park. Rebuild with expansion joints. Make it big. Make it glorious. Make it something sacred. Make it something that the whole world will know how incredible that person was because of how you live your life, my friend. So that is the final stage. That is our last part in our 5-part series, is trading our acceptance for expansion and building and living a bigger life. Thank you so much for listening to all 5 of these, and I hope that you got something out of them. Please, in the comments below, tell me what you got out of it, and tell me how you're going to live a life of expansion, not resignation. Thank you so much.